Want to hear the truth about the current state of marketing and advertising in 2025 directly from someone who has unique behind the scenes insights into hundreds of businesses? Then you definitely do not want to miss this interview with my friend Molly Pittman, the CEO of Smart Marketer, because let me tell you, the tea is piping hot. Hey Posse, what's up? It's Alex. I am very excited to bring you this exclusive interview with the incredible Molly Pittman. She is the CEO of Smart Marketer, the co-host of the Perpetual Traffic podcast with over 5 million downloads, and she is an advertising queen who has managed over $600 million in profitable ad spend. She was also one of the 9 incredible speakers at Posse Fest, my epic live marketing event that I hosted in Vancouver last year. Now, in this interview, we get real about the current state of the marketing industry. As someone whose agency runs millions of dollars in monthly ad spend for a variety of different clients, products, and niches, she has such a unique behind the scenes perspective that many of us do not have, and that is what makes her insights so freaking valuable. You will hear us chat about why 2024 was one of the hardest years in marketing that either one of us have ever seen, why she believes this is actually an advantage for newcomers to the market. We, of course, talk about AI and the amazing ways it is saving us dozens of hours per week and the not so amazing impact it's having in other areas of marketing and advertising. We'll discuss the AI versus copywriter debate, and you will hear the results of Molly's copy split tests. Then she shares the top 3 paid traffic strategies that are working best right now after analyzing $600 million of ad spend and the best process for writing ads. And spoiler alert, I can practically guarantee you've been doing it all backwards. We'll talk about the #1 mistake that most people make in their advertising, how to get ahead and stay relevant in 2025, and so much more. Honestly, we could have talked for hours. And make sure you watch to the end of this interview because you will learn how you can get free access to an entire module from Molly's $3,000 paid traffic program that you cannot get anywhere else. This was such a juicy conversation. I know you are going to love it. Now here's the interview. Hello, Molly Pittman. Welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you're here.
Alex, what's up? Hey, Copy Posse. Happy to be here as always.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for so long. In fact, before we pushed record, you guys, Molly and I were just having the most beautiful conversation and sharing what's going on in our worlds and our businesses. And it really just highlighted for me the importance of connection in this industry and finding friends, communities, people that you can align with and who share your values that you can literally just call when you are going through something and need to ask questions. And I'm calling this out now here on video because I never do this. We had this interview scheduled and I was like, okay, I'm going to ask Molly a few questions before we start. And I'm like, why don't I just freaking pick up the phone and call you more often, because you're such a dear friend and I value your insight so much. But we're just going to share now all of your wisdom with the posse as if I'm calling you up.
Hey,
Molly, how do I need help?
We call it business therapy, right? But I mean, we're all having these individualized experiences and we think we're alone and we're not. So, talking about it is the best thing you can do.
Seriously. I mean, I literally said to Molly before we recorded, I'm like, is it me? Am I the problem? What's happening? And I think it's just so important to have these conversations. And so we're kicking off 2025 with this incredible interview with literally, truly one of the women that I've looked up to in this industry for so long. Molly, they heard your incredible introduction and your accolades, but I like to rewind a little bit and let's talk a little bit about how you got into the whole world of marketing.
Oh, goodness. Yes. So we'll rewind back to 2012. So almost 13 years now. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. And, in Kentucky, the big thing is bourbon. That's our tourism. There are more barrels of bourbon here in Kentucky than there are people. And it's true.
Very important fact. I'm so glad I know that.
It's like in Amsterdam, there are more bikes than people.
Or in New Zealand, more sheep than people.
There you go. Here it's bourbon, and that's always been the case. But in college, I knew I wanted to be in marketing. I didn't quite know what that looked like. And I got an internship at Buffalo Trace, which I believe is the best bourbon distillery in the world. And I got to learn really old school marketing. Like they did not care about the internet at all. And it was the foundation for everything. It really opened my eyes. And so after that internship, my college advisor, Dr. P, she's a badass. She's an entrepreneur and she taught one class at my school called entrepreneurship. And one class. And she told me, okay, Molly, I know this sounds outlandish, but I was just at a conference in Austin. And I'm like, oh, where's Austin? Texas. And she said, Molly, that's where things are happening. Like, I don't know what you're going to do, but you have to move to Austin, Texas. And I got chill bumps. I knew, okay, there's something there for me. And so after graduation, I moved to Austin with my best friend, Julia, who you met at our event.
Yes. Yeah, I have my hat over there.
Yeah, she's an entrepreneur too. And that's really where everything started for me. So I moved down there. I was bartending, trying to, get by. And I found a job posting on Craigslist.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, back in the day, Craigslist was less creepy. And it was for a paid internship. And how they positioned it was, we're hiring 15 people. It's a 3-month internship. You will learn a lot during this internship. And at the end of these 3 months, we're going to hire 3 of you full time. So it was like a TV show. And I'm
like the Hunger Games of marketing.
Yeah, I was interested. I'm super competitive.
I was going to say that would speak to me too. Like, let's go, boys. Come on.
Oh, exactly. I used to be an athlete. So I'm like, heck yes. The worst thing that happens is I'm going to learn. And so that internship was with a company called Digital Marketer, who a lot of people in the marketing space probably know of. And that's how I got into this world. So I learned a lot during those 3 months. I was lucky enough to be one of the folks who got a full-time gig at the end. And I worked there for 6 years, worked my way up to VP of marketing, learned media buying, really everything that I'm talking about today. That was my fundamental education into this space. And, then went out on my own, have a business called Smart Marketers. So, I never intended to get into this world. I didn't even own a laptop when I started doing this.
You're like, all I could do was like drink a good bourbon.
Hey, there you go. And the opportunities just presented themselves and I took them. So
I love it so much. Our stories are so similar in that way. Like intern, I didn't even know what online marketing was. I remember the first time I saw a landing page and I was like genuinely so confused because all you could do was opt in. And I was like, this is like, looks like a login page. Like they just want me to log in. Like what's happening? I remember being so confused. And, it would have been around, like 2013, 14 probably, where I would have seen you at a digital marketer event. And I just remember like back then there were very few women in the room and seeing you and being like, what a freaking boss. Like, of course it's, it's so funny when we look at others and we're like, oh man, they're like, they've got it figured out. They have all the answers, and meanwhile, like you had the same story as me, like intern, working your way up. And I just love that because you went from intern to employee to executive, VP at a very, very well-known company, got your hands dirty, you learned a lot, and then you went out on your own with Smart Marketer. And I'd love for you to share some wisdom on that transition because a lot of people in the posse, my friend Stu McLaren, who you met at Posse Fest, says, you're the posse, like your business is like the gateway drug to entrepreneurship because a lot of people find me right where they're in this place in their lives where they most likely have a 9-to-5 job, or maybe they have a side hustle, but they're kind of looking to step out of that 9-to-5 world and into entrepreneurship. And I'm curious sort of what advice you would give to someone who's navigating that? Because you have employees, you have freelancers, you have agency owners. Like, how do you get on the right path, and what advice would you give to people looking to make that transition?
Yeah, Alex, I think a lot of people get hung up on this part of it because they want to put themselves in a box. Like, what
Yeah.
am I? Am I a freelancer? Am I an entrepreneur? My first piece of advice would be, do not worry about that, right? Figure out
Stop overthinking it.
yeah, what skill sets do I have, or what skill sets do I want to develop, and how can I apply them in a way that provides transformations for other people?
Yeah.
If you can nail that first, the rest of it will literally work itself out. And if you have the desire to be an entrepreneur and you aren't quite ready to have your own business, in my opinion, the best thing you can do is work for someone else. And I call those people entrepreneurs,
Yep.
I was an entrepreneur for 6 years, and I wouldn't have become an entrepreneur if it wasn't for that experience, because I got to act like an entrepreneur, but I had that safeguard around myself because the company wasn't entirely my responsibility, right? There was less risk. When you become an entrepreneur, when you grow a team, you start to realize that a lot of your time is spent on things that aren't the art or the act of doing the marketing or whatever it is you do. And it can be a beautiful experience, but especially if you're just starting out, think of yourself as an entrepreneur, whether you're working full-time for someone else, whether you're a freelancer, whether you have clients, it doesn't necessarily matter. We've got to nail that skill set. What is that transformation I provide for someone? How you label yourself will change so much over time. I've been every single one of those labels, and they all were part of the experience to really lead me where I want to go. So all in all, just do it. Don't get stuck on the name. I know it can be tough, but realize even if you're working for someone else, you can still be acting as an entrepreneur.
That's such good advice. And when I think back to my journey, it was sort of the same thing. I'm like, I don't think I ever stopped and thought about what I was until when I started my own business and then started coaching people who did what I did. And I'm like, oh, I was freelancing. But like in the moment, I wasn't like very conscious of that. I was like, I just help businesses with copywriting and marketing. And I think that's the like important takeaway from this is so often, to your point, Molly, we do want to label ourselves. We think, oh, the second I quit my job, it means now I'm a freelancer or I'm an entrepreneur or I'm a business owner. And I was talking to someone the other day about that. I'm like, do you call yourself a business owner, an entrepreneur, a founder? I'm like, oh my God, they're all just labels that kind of just mean the same thing. Instead, how can you learn the skills that serve other people and stop thinking about what do I say as my quote unquote title? Because at the end of the day, it's all about the transformation you provide. So that leads me to my next question, which is, like me, you've been around this industry for a long time. You've seen a lot of shifts and changes happening. What advice would you give to someone right now who is like, okay, I do want to learn a new skill because I want something more. I want to do something different, but I'm a bit scared right now. Like shit's going down. Like, is now the right time to do this? What advice would you give to people?
I mean, Alex, part of our business therapy session before we hit record, which is truly what it was. And it's funny because I even find that with my clients nowadays, most people would think that I hop on calls and we talk about complex marketing strategies. That's part of the conversation, but it's usually some sort of emotional business therapy. And going back to that, I will say that 2024 was like the hardest year I've ever had in business or as a marketer for many reasons. And I think a lot of folks are feeling that. And guess what? That's okay. When we do have tough years, it opens up even more opportunity for people like us and everybody watching. And I know you hear that a lot, but I truly mean it. And the reason for that is that because this industry changes so much, it's even tough for Alex and I because we've been doing this so long. My brain reverts back to things that used to work or how we used to do things, right? Because that's how our brains function. And as a new person in this industry, you actually have an edge, right? Up on even people like Alex and I, because you can bring a completely new lens to how this should be done or how this could be done. So yes, it is changing. That will never stop. You know, my team, we always laugh. 1 year in any other industry is 10 years in internet land, digital marketing,
Yeah.
e-commerce, whatever you want to call it. So realize, yes, times are tough right now, but for newcomers, that's actually the best time to enter a market.
That's so, so true. And I think about like thinking back over the years, all of the greatest challenges led to some of the biggest opportunities. And, I think about that even with AI. And I wanted to ask you about this because, we all know that AI is not going anywhere. We all know that it's such a talked about tool, you could say, right now. We're around every corner. It's like, oh my God, if I see AI one more time. And we were talking at length before this about what that's doing sort of to our confidence as like humans and our confidence as part of our humanity. It's like it's being now outsourced to something that a lot of people are promoting is better than us, better than our humanness, better than our empathy. And especially for writers, I get asked multiple times a day, is copywriting, still a skill worth learning? Because what about AI? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask Molly Pittman.
That hurts my heart.
Yeah.
That
Seriously.
hurts my heart that people
Yeah.
think that. I'm sure people will maybe go crazy in the comment section over this. AI will and is completely changing our world, but I believe it's being positioned a little bit out of context. So the way that I look at AI is, I think of most things through the lens of an advertiser because that's where I come from. AI is making these advertising platforms so much stronger, right? AI is making our work, things that used to take us 6 hours might take us 5 minutes now. Those are beautiful things, but in the end, and this, don't argue with me about this, guys, because this is just a word. AI is a tool, like you said, Alex. AI is a tool. And when, just like we were discussing with the last question, when we go through times like these with this uprise of AI, which has actually been going on for decades, and we have just now decided that this is something we're going to make a big deal out of.
Yeah.
It also creates opportunity for people like us. For example, like I said, we've had a really tough year in business, and I've had to really look at our team and say, how far can we go with expenses, as they are in our company? And when I think about our team, even everyone on our team is so valuable, but our copywriter is probably one of the most, if not most valuable person on our team. And it has nothing to do with AI. It has to do with this person's heart and soul, his understanding of our market, his understanding of smart marketers' voice. And that is something, sure, you can teach AI voice. AI will never have a heart. AI will never have a soul. I know that sounds airy-fairy. Alex, we split test this all the time at Smart Marketer with really good AI practices because we are using it. But when something is purely written by Ruben, our copywriter, split tested against AI, it is never a comparison. Ruben beats AI every single time. And it's because he is a real person who understands what we're doing. And so AI is a tool. It is incredible. I'm so grateful for it. I'm a nerd. I think it's amazing. I study it. I use it. Our team is using it, right?
Yeah.
It is something you need to embrace, especially in regards to how AI is affecting things like Facebook's algorithm or Google's algorithm or what's going on these platforms that we use. but it will never replace humans. And people that look at it that way, they have a short-sighted view of what we're doing here anyways. Like when someone applies to work with us, for example, as an email client, if they believed that AI could write all of their emails, they never would apply to work with us in the first place. Even a client that comes to us, okay, AI writes my emails, whatever, that can continue to happen. But the level of strategy that we are able to put in place, even if the emails are still written by AI, we're able to double the revenue that they're generating through that channel. So there will always be a place for humans. And it's also a mindset thing that I think we're all working through too as an industry, because, Alex, we said this, I think a lot of people look at AI like a magic pill. It's like the Ozempic of marketing where, and no judgment if you use Ozempic, but we also need to look at the long-term effects of these things too. So
gosh, oh my God. You said so much there. And first of all, thank you, because I also have that same opinion, which I know in AI bro land is incredibly contrarian, but the way I see it, and this is everything that I teach in my annual Launchpad program, is you look at, let's say, the base level of what we're talking about is generative, words. Okay, words. Yes, we need words in business. Words are great. Content in its standalone form could just be words, right? Like an email or an ad or a social post. And I love that you've done split tests to say, hey, look, still humans are outperforming. And does it mean that sometimes AI won't outperform a single piece of content if we're only holding this one thing in isolation? No, maybe not. But the level up from just words is marketing and strategy and all the things you're talking about. Is it's no longer just about one piece of content floating around on the internet trying to get attention. It's how do these pieces fit together into a sequence or into a strategy to then create results and get people to take action. That's a whole other skill set. And then the layer above that, which is what I'm, crazy passionate about, is messaging. And how do you make your audience feel something? Because I hate to break it to everyone watching this, but we are in a serious connection crisis right now where everyone is desperate just to be seen, heard, and understood by another human, which, Molly and I were saying we both ran live events this year. And in a lot of ways, that was so crazy to do during the year that everyone just had. But I should say we ran events last year because this is being published in 2025. But also so proud of us for being what people needed more than ever was connection. And so, everything that you just said, where copywriting to me, words and generating words is the baseline, simplest form, but true copywriting is yes, knowing how to write words, great, but it's strategy, it's understanding how to sequence, it's understanding persuasion and flow and what people need, and then there's that extra layer on top, which is messaging and getting your audience to feel and connect with you. And so right now, I'm on a rant. You jump in.
No, it's souls connecting to souls, in the highest level. For example, Alex Bree, who is in your community, she writes copy. I have a dog rescue, and she writes copy for all of the bios for the dogs. Could AI do that? Sure. Would they ever be as resonant and as if Bree, a true soul out here on human earth, would be writing the bio?
Fighting for the dogs? Yeah, exactly.
It's just not the case. So it's even higher level, Alex, on a spiritual, however you want to look at it, it is nothing will ever replace two souls connecting, which goes back to the idea of connection in the first place.
Yeah. And Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Exactly. And you and I didn't know this would turn out to be such a tough year, but how funny that even in the year before, independently of one another, we identified, live events. that's what our people need. And look where we are now. So it's really interesting to look.
Well, and and I understand why people are freaked out, because right now it's that shiny object, right? It's the thing that's flooding the marketplace and seems like this like swelling, oh my gosh, like if you don't jump on that wave. And for the record, just to echo what you said, Molly, we love AI and we love using it in a way to make our content more accessible, to help our students write faster. We've embedded AI prompts for the Launchpad program to help people complete the modules faster, but without sacrificing you better believe I'm going to make you think first. You better believe I'm going to teach you why you're doing that, or else we're literally just swimming around in each other's shit. Like, how do you learn a skill that sets you apart and stand out? And it really is that long-term, no matter what, investing in yourself and learning something that other people will always need at our core as humans. Until our customers are robots, then why the hell are we outsourcing all of our power, creativity, and critical thinking to robots?
I love that. And even then, we would still be different, even to the robots, because we're real people. So,
exactly. We could go off like all day on this, but I'm so glad we had that conversation because, sometimes it is like, you said you had a hard year in 2024, as did I. I felt like I was working twice as hard and spinning my wheels and not getting the same results. And it's really easy to sort of allow your confidence to waver and to forget who the hell you are. And my mission for 2025 is to remind every single person watching this who the F you are and what you bring to the table. And there's never been a better time than now to learn a skill that, honestly, right now there's a premium put on humanity because everything else is so dime a dozen. Like, everyone now has access to AI. How can you be different? So thank you for that, Molly. We're going to shift gears. We're going to talk a little bit more tactical now, if everybody's okay with that.
Let's do it.
One of the things I love talking to you about, obviously, is just your experience with Facebook ads and writing ads and running ads, because of just the sheer amount of data you have seen across your businesses and clients' businesses. And I know you've analyzed a ton of ads. So what would you say is working right now in the world of Facebook advertising?
Yeah, and Alex, I also want to add that this analysis that we did a few months ago is of over $600 million in spend, but
just a few dollars
on TikTok, Google, YouTube. So even for those of you that are like, oh, Meta's in the past, which isn't true, I want you to think of this discussion as what visuals get humans to do stuff in 2025, right? Like, I have a local restaurant with my husband. I even think about this data when we're putting the signs outside of the restaurant. This can be any visual that you're thinking about. But yeah, it was a really fun analysis because it validated some things that I've known, but it also, things were a little different too than I thought. So the first thing that we looked at, and this has been, let's call it an argument in our industry since I've been a part of our industry, and that is video versus still image, which I've never loved this argument, even if you're just looking at meta ads. One of the biggest questions I get from my students, Molly, which one is going to win? Is it image or is it video? And the first thing that I like to teach them is we can't think of it that way. On these platforms, there is inventory for both still images and video. And if we're looking for a winner, we are alienating half of the population that is more likely to consume with a different medium. And so we're never looking for winners, guys. The goal on a platform like Meta would be, how do I get still images and videos to work? Because then you're truly saturating your market in terms of how people consume. But I thought this stat was really cool. So 48% of the top ads, and again, this is across 50 plus industries, guys, different businesses, everything from e-com to info to local business, so that we're not looking in a vacuum here. But 48% of those ads were still images. And this was really validating because the message in the market is still video first, video wins. And it's like, yes, video is great. And there is so much that you can portray through a still.
So good.
And there's so much inventory on these platforms in relation to still images. So that was the first thing that we looked at. The second part of this was even closer to my soul and what I'm interested in. And this is the idea of native advertising versus non-native. And when I say that, what I mean is if an ad is native, it truly looks like it belongs on that platform. Like it looks like a post from a friend or a family member. And that's usually why it works, because as consumers, we're seeing over 5,000 ads a day on average now. Yeah. And our brains, even though it's subconscious, are trained every motion we take on these platforms to know what an ad looks like.
Yeah.
We know what an ad looks like. Subconsciously, we're going to skip over those ads, right? Yeah,
totally.
That is why the idea of native advertising, this is not new. This has been around hundreds of years. You know, native ads were in newspapers and books long before the internet was around. But we've always gone deep into really making ads look like they belong on these platforms, you know, using images or videos that are taken on an iPhone instead of a professional shoot, making sure the opening ad copy is a story or something that's conversational. It's not just about the product or service. So when we analyzed 62% of the top performing ads were native. And I was actually a little underwhelmed by this. Like, yes, it does prove my point a bit. Yeah. But it also shows you that there still is such a world for ads that do look like ads. I think there are two pieces to this, Alex. I think one is that because native ads have become such a thing, now our brains are starting to be trained that things cannot look like an ad and still be an ad. But also understanding that with retargeting and following up with someone that already knows your brand, a lot of times that is actually the best time to look like an ad because they already have relationships. So a lot of the non-native ads that were top ads were retargeting ads, which makes sense.
Totally. I was going to say that because for our recent launch, I was so shocked that like literally the graphic that was like, you know, just telling you the program was open, I thought would not do well. And it did. And I was like, okay, well, shit.
Right. So it shows you should be using both of these types. And especially when you're following up with someone, it is okay to look like an ad. Yeah. And then the last thing we analyzed, Alex, was this idea of a hook, which your audience understands. And the way that we defined a hook in this analysis is, did the ad speak to an in transformation for the user that isn't just a feature of the product? Or right, so this isn't just that the phone case is made from whatever it's made of, or, you know, you guys understand features versus benefits. That's how we sorted these. This did not surprise me. 88% of the top ads had a hook. 12% of them, mostly retargeting, were speaking to the price or small details of the product. That is simply not why people buy, or it's not why they click on an ad. So this just reaffirms what we
so validating.
Yeah, it's like
everything we've been teaching is right. Thank God.
Yeah, right. Tell those stories, speak to the actual features, speak to the transformation the end user is going to have. Speak less to the specifics of your product. People don't care about that as much when they're initiating the conversation with you. So those were the top 3 coolest data points that came from that study.
I love that so much, especially, I mean, we know a strong hook works. And I get this question a lot from copywriters who write in e-com, because they'll say, well, so-and-so, their ad just like has a list of the features, you know, and you know, the way that we're talking about it in, let's say, the Launchpad is hook first. And you know, as someone who hasn't written a lot of copy for e-com, it's great to hear that, like, no, people care about the benefit way more. And oftentimes that could be tied to a feature. Like there's like waterproof is a feature, but how can you explain why it's important that, you know, whatever it is you're selling is waterproof? And it's because there's a benefit, of course, to that.
This is some of the biggest difference we make with our clients, because a lot of our clients are selling physical products, which tends to be a little bit easier because a physical product you can just understand easier as a human.
Yeah.
The
True.
biggest change we make, yes, is storytelling, but it's also how can we make the product for someone? So, Sweet Flex, one of our clients, they sell leggings with resistance bands in the leggings. It's a really cool product.
Wow.
The way
That's
that
awesome.
they went from seven figures to eight figures was truly by embracing what we're talking about. When they first came out with the product, it was so novel. All they had to do was say, hey, leggings with resistance bands. People loved it, but that didn't allow them to get to the next level. When we started working together, the first thing that we did was say, okay, what markets could this apply to? The first one was moms, of
I
course.
was gonna say busy moms who want that juicy booty.
Hey, moms, you're already running around like crazy. Kids are on your back. You
You're
don't.
squatting with the children.
That is literally what the ads look like, Alex.
Mm,
And that's when the brand truly took off, because it wasn't just about a hook or a story. It was about being for someone. And when
mm,
someone's scrolling and that they see that something is for them, I mean, that's the best marketing that you can do. So it's
yeah.
hooks, also avatars too.
It's so huge. And again, we say it time and time again. We know that if you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one. But it's like we need to remind ourselves of that all the freaking time. And it comes down to something just as simple as that. Like rather than talking about why this product is revolutionary, which is still, like you said, can still work if it is actually revolutionary. There comes a point in time where it's no longer revolutionary. It's like, I think about when home meal kits came on the scene, and it was like revolutionary that you could get a box of ingredients shipped to your house. And the ads that you would see for HelloFresh were just like, you don't have to cook, or like, you don't have to, I forget what it is, but it was just like, we're going to ship a box of stuff to your house. And you're like, wow.
So cool. Yes.
Now
I
it's different.
remember that. And whether it's new or not, every novel idea hits a ceiling of amount of people that think that thing is cool. Right? And especially
Exactly.
scaling on these paid ad platforms,
Yeah.
sure, you can go broad with a message, but that's only going to get you so far. You need the ability to go into these pockets of markets and really make yourself relevant.
Yeah, I love that. Write the ad for some, I mean, like it's for someone. Yes, it's for someone. There's another human on the other end, which just again goes back to that, like that idea of connection. And yes, you can be selling something, but still be connecting with your audience because you know exactly what they care about and what keeps them up at night and all of that important stuff that we as marketers need to know and deeply know, not just ask ChatGPT to tell us what our customers care about, which great is a fun tool to generate some potential new ideas, but to really understand who it is that you're selling to on a much deeper level so that you can
Yep. And actually care about those people. I love it.
fancy that. Care. As we were talking about meal kits, I'm like, man, the analogy too is like, like AI right now is like the first meal kit, where it's like everybody's just freaking out. And at some point, the true marketers will rise to the surface. Like, of course, because you have to once the sea gets full of little baby fish that aren't really going anywhere. Yeah. Okay. So something I want to talk about is the process for writing ads. Like we spoke a little bit about this, and you think about ads a lot differently in terms of how you create it. Like if I'm talking to my Launchpad students about writing ads, what is the process that they should be going through in their minds to sit down and be able to create?
I love it. Yeah, most people are writing ads backwards. And it's because when we think, especially if media buying is not the thing you've committed the last 10 years to your career, of your career to, like we sit down to write an ad,
Yeah.
and the first thing we think about is how it's going to look in the news feed or how it's going to look on TikTok. And we actually have to flip that. And it goes along with the conversation we were just having.
Yeah.
It's the who, right? Like, who are we actually trying to sell this to? What are the hooks, right? The reasons in which someone wants said thing.
Mhm.
Okay, now let's get creative and go into the process of actually making the image or video or writing the copy.
Mhm.
And most people sit down, they're like, okay, I'm ready to write an ad. And there's a blank screen, and there they go. And when you do that is when you really get stuck in feature land, right? It's when your ad sounds like an ad,
Yeah.
right?
Featureland is not as fun as it sounds.
No, no. And when you flip that, right? And you actually start with moms and okay, this is going to help you burn more calories going about the day that you're already going to have. You don't even have to go to the gym. You can still be with your kids and burn 255 calories a day and have the legs and the body that you want and feel good and have the energy that you want to continue to show up for your children. Now it becomes about something completely different than just the product. And so most people are doing that backwards. So if you can always start with the who and the why, you will always outperform other advertisers, even that are tactically better than you in the platform, because you understand the psychology and you're not just selling a product or service in a newsfeed.
Oh my gosh, totally. And that opens up so many doors too, because I feel like and this, I get this question a lot when someone's writing for a product, they're like, well, how many different ways can I talk about my product? And my answer is stop talking about your freaking product. Like
Exactly.
all you really need is like a strong call to action after you've built up the desire and interest to learn more. Like your job, especially in my world, your job isn't to convince people of everything they need to know right there in the news feed. Your job is to get attention and to get them to take one step.
Yeah, your job is to sell the click. Let the page sell the product or sell the opt-in.
Yeah.
Maybe 5% at the very end of your ad should be about whatever you want them to do.
Yeah.
And that's the mistake most people are making. The entire ad is a giant call to action, and consumers are just too smart in 2025. It just
Yeah. You scroll right past. Exactly. It's so juicy. So you guys, you've been writing your ads backwards. Think of the who and the why first. I think that is such great advice. And Molly, thank you so much for just always coming and sharing so much wisdom and just so genuinely. I freaking adore you. And I'm going to business therapy your ass like a lot this year. I'm going to be calling you all the time.
maybe that needs to be a new business for you and I. This is businesstherapy.com.
Yeah, maybe that should be like, my new podcast. Like it's just like business therapy, and I just like interview and all of my friends, and we talk about like the shit, the good, the bad, the ugly, and record it. So who knows?
Please do, because tactics are important and they matter, but really mindset, or whatever you want to call it, how you face adversity, how you keep your mind
Yeah.
in check, being able to show up consistently every day with a positive attitude. That's what we tell our team. Things are not always easy and we're going to go through ups and downs, but if you can consistently show up every day with a positive attitude and truly analyze what's going on and adjust and pivot based off of what people want, we will always be relevant. We'll always get to participate in this market. So
100%. Yes, thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. To everyone watching, just again to highlight Molly's generosity, when you join the Launchpad Season 6, you will get an entire module from her $3,000 course on how to write Facebook ads. It is so juicy. You couldn't even go buy this if you wanted to right now, because Molly is no longer selling this program, but it is such a valuable training. And I don't know if you want to share anything about that quick, Molly.
yeah, just hop in, guys, because there's so much more to it. And also just diving in more tactically to these platforms too. So join Launchpad. Alex, I love that it's season 6. It reminds me of the real world.
Yeah. So you can see, and it's gonna be the hottest season yet.
And we need a marketing reality show sometime. What do you guys think?
I'm into that. Yeah, starring all of our favorite people. Oh my God, I love it. Yeah, thank you, Molly, again for that and for everything you shared. If anyone wants to learn more about all the incredibleness that you're up to at Smart Marketer, where can they find more info?
Yeah, head over to smartmarketer.com. We are actually starting a new live show in the new year that I think you guys will love. If you enjoyed this episode, we have a free resources tab with a bunch of free classes. Our motto is serve the world unselfishly and profit. And so what that means is that we truly believe if you are in the energy of service at all times, like how can I truly serve a market? How can I help marketers and business people out there, is our market, then the profit will come. And, a lot of people on the internet, the bro marketers especially, have this flipped. They're thinking, how can I make money? Oh, if I help people, that's okay. And so if you take nothing else from this interview, y'all, just remember that mantra, because that will get you where you want to go. You can never fail if you are going about your life in that way, in that order. So thanks for having me, Alex.
You can never, ever fail when you are serving first and when you are betting on yourself and remembering the incredibleness that you bring to the table as a creative, strategic, critical thinker and human. How amazing was that conversation with Molly? You guys, if you made it this far, I have a very exciting announcement to share with you. If you are watching this video on January 8th, the day it was released, I am excited to announce that doors to Launchpad Season 6 are now open for a very limited time. So if you want to ignite your copywriting business in 2025, if you want to write for your own business and learn the strategies and the formulas that I've used over the last 16 years to write funnels that convert, and if you want to get your hands on that bonus that we talked about directly from Molly, click the link in the description box below and join us inside the class of 2025. I will see you in there, and check back next week for a brand new video. Until then, I'm Alex. Ciao for now. All right, guys, if you enjoyed that video, make sure to check out the next one from me right here. And you can click right here to get a free gift. Want to learn how to write binge-worthy emails that your audience just cannot stop reading? How do you find amazing storytelling ideas to use in your emails? Want to hear the most obvious place you have never thought of for finding the best subject line inspo? And what is one small habit that you could start doing like today that would instantly make you a better storyteller? You better believe you are getting the juiciest answers to all of those questions and more as I sit down with my brilliant and hilarious friend and expert email copywriter, Laura Belgray.